even matter what you think of Tucker Carlson. The focus here is, who is it that's doing the smearing? And do they have any right whatsoever to claim some sort of moral superiority? These charlatans with their expensive suits and their carefully crafted public personas, they get away with smearing other people when, if you just scratch the surface, you will see some really completely sick and twisted stuff in their background. And I'm going to assassinate their character starting now. This is the story. Tucker Carlson here, conservative Fox News television show host who decimates the left every night on his show, is up against Media Matters. And this is just one example of one of the articles, one of the many hundreds of articles that are out there against him. Here's some Google results from yesterday, and they're all negative about Tucker Carlson. Some of them aren't even true. You can tell that this is a campaign, a sustained campaign, and not honest outrage against something Tucker Carlson said on a shock jock radio show 15 or 20 years ago, whatever it is they've brought up. The left doesn't really care about that. They just want to vanquish a longtime enemy. And here's some proof. On the Media Matters own website, and you do a search for Tucker Carlson, you will see that there are almost 2,000 results. And they start back in 2004. 2,000 attack articles against Tucker Carlson, not just Fox News, Tucker Carlson himself, since 2004. So don't spare me, David Brock, spare me, mainstream media, spare me that this is you've recently unearthed something off color that Tucker said, and that's what this is all about? Baloney. So let's look at Media Matters. Here is Media Matters. This is David Brock. That is the guy who started it all. He is the president, owner. What would you call it? It's a non-profit organization. Here's David Brock being interviewed on MSNBC. He's the founder of Media Matters. Here he is at the Clinton School of Public Service. So David Brock is well respected. He gets a lot of attention. He's on their side. Are you getting the picture? This is the connections that we're going to go through today. Although there's more, but I'm not going to bother with all of them. David Brock is funded by Susan Sandler of the Sandler Foundation and the Democracy Alliance, by George Soros, the Podesta brothers, and Hillary Clinton. We're also going to talk about James Alefantis a little bit because they are longtime friends and former partners of one another. Looking at who funds Media Matters, some of the initial donors were Leo Hendry, Susie Tompkins Buell, and James Hormel. Who are they? Quick look. We're not going to spend much time on these guys. Leo Hendry Jr. is a member on the Council on Foreign Relations. If you don't know what that is, I'm going to have to suggest you go and look it up. It's a really important organization. Neocon. Susie Tompkins Buell is often described as Hillary Clinton's soulmate, and she's also a member of the Democracy Alliance. And finally, out of those first three funders, we have James Hormel. James Hormel was appointed by U.S. President Bill Clinton in 1999 as the first LGBT ambassador. Obviously, he also knows Nancy Pelosi because here they are together. And whoa, he's a member of the Democracy Alliance. So what is the Democracy Alliance? Well, this article from Politico in 2014 talks about the Democracy Alliance being a major donor club. And it has annual dues of $30,000. So that's all the members have to pay dues a year of $30,000. And then contribute a total of at least $200,000 a year to recommended groups. Democracy Alliance is very secretive, but it puts together a list of approved NGOs and foundations and charities, and you as a member have to donate at least $200,000 to the groups listed every year. This Vox article, which is from 2014, says the Democracy Alliance is a secretive group of donors that helps set the progressive agenda. It lists hedge fund billionaire George Soros and his son Jonathan, financier Steve Gluckstern, actor-director Rob Reiner, Facebook co-founder Chris Hughes, who now owns the New Republic. And look at this. A whole bunch of unions recently have joined the Democracy Alliance. Isn't that something? Union members, take note. A $30,000 a year membership fee and then $200,000 a year minimum must be donated to the progressive causes of choice on the Democracy Alliance list. Who were those unions? Just in case you're a member, you might want to bring this up at the next meeting. The SEIU, the AFL-CIO, Communications Workers of America, the American Federation of Teachers, and John Stocks, who is the executive director of the country's largest teachers union group, the National Education Association, became the chairman of the group's board. That's where your dues are going. How does that help the common man or woman? All right, so Tucker Carlson is fighting back a little, and what he's done so far is he's gone after this guy, Angelo Carusone, because Angelo here has written a blog that is much, much worse than what Tucker Carlson said on the Shock Jock radio all those years ago. But you know what? I don't care about that. I mean, I do, because it shows the hypocrisy. But let's go for the throat. And Angelo is just going to fade off into obscurity. And meanwhile, David Brock and his attack, it's the much more hypocritical one. Let's see who else funds Media Matters. Well, we've got George Soros. George Soros, a founding and continuing member of the Alliance, this is the Democracy Alliance. He's also a part of that. Donated $1 million to Media Matters. I'm not going to spend too much time on George Soros, but suffice to say, it is a fact that he worked with the Nazis to confiscate Jewish property in World War II.
My understanding is that you went out with this protector of yours who swore that you were his adopted godson.
Yes.
Went out, in fact, and helped in the confiscation of property from the Jews.
That's right. Yes.
I mean, that sounds like an experience that would send lots of people to the psychiatric couch for many, many years. Was it difficult?
Not at all. Not at all. Maybe as a child you don't see the connection, but it created no problem at all.
No feeling of guilt.
No.
For example, that
He says it was formative. He says if he didn't do it, somebody else was going to do it. And I believe that's how he's lived the rest of his life. People are catching on to him. Look at these articles here. He's been kicked out of Hungary. He's been kicked out of Turkey. And everybody says the same thing about him, that he's an agitator who uses his billions to foment social unrest. His fund manager, look at this article here from November 3rd, 2017 on Fox News. Soros fund manager raped, beat Playboy models. $27 million lawsuit alleges. That's from several Playboy models. According to them, he said, quote, "I'm going to rape you like I rape my daughter." And he worked for Soros Fund Management from 2008 to 2015. Don't tell me George Soros knew nothing about this. According to Politico, Media Matters also has received funding from or formed partnerships with several other groups that Soros funds or has funded. The Tides Foundation, the Democracy Alliance, MoveOn.org, and the Center for American Progress. It's a nice, tight little loop, as we're going to see soon. They all feed back into one another. Center for American Progress, let's start there. Center for American Progress is founded by John Podesta. John Podesta, here he is right here. He is the man behind Hillary Clinton's campaign, or he was before she lost, boo-hoo, but he was the man behind her 2016 campaign for president. And John Podesta was also the White House chief of staff for Bill Clinton. So he goes far back. He's really in the establishment. I mean, deep in there. This is one of the guys that wears the fancy suits and has a carefully crafted public persona, and he goes out there and he tells you what's true. He